Okay, and then we gotta go here, and where is it? Go live. I think this is what I hit. Okay, so it looks like we are live on Instagram. I can see us there.
It's alive.
It is alive. And let's check out the YouTube. What is up, guys? What is up? Give us just a second here.
Yeah, I'm checking everything as well. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Hope everybody's day is going well.
Yep, we're on YouTube, so we're good there.
Yeah. Okay.
And Facebook.
Hope everybody's staying cool out there because it is what in the 1992 here in Parker. I don't know what it is down there where you at.
Hot as hell is what it
Is it?
is.
Nope.
It is. It's like 87 right now, but it was in the 90s earlier, something like
I've
that.
been I've been trying to get to the pool for days, and it's so hard even though it's across the street.
Right. All right. What is up, guys? What is up? Welcome to Warriors Way Home, our
Hey,
live
what's up,
stream,
T?
our first live stream here on YouTube, Instagram, and on Facebook. So, what is up, guys?
Yes,
Hope you guys are all
sir.
doing well, better than good, better than great, keeping up the fights, and keep your heads up, man. Keep your heads up.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully, have or I know we have some strong conversation for you guys to be able to go over some of the things that have just things that not doesn't get a lot of attention. It gets attention in the news when it kind of comes to the aftermath, but
Hmm.
it's how do we put a stop to certain things that I know a lot of us men are kind of going through,
Yeah.
and to be able to address that in a proactive way instead of a reactive way because this is unfortunately this is a lot of the kind of news that we see far too often in this country.
Definitely, definitely. It happens. It tends to happen way too much. And prevention is, um, if you prevent the disease, you don't have to worry about cutting it out later.
Yes, sir.
So what we were talking about today, man, is the psychology of the shooter. So why do men snap?
Hmm.
Specifically, what brought this conversation up was I was telling Edmund, the not we're not going to be getting into the politics of this whole thing. That's really not what we're getting on it about. With the whole Trump rally shooter, but it seems like a symptom of a bigger problem.
Hmm.
Is what we're talking about because it's been over. I mean, since we were teenagers. I mean, starting here in Colorado, right where I am.
Yeah.
We had Columbine go on,
Hmm.
and a lot of people. Um, I put it this way: the men's mental health doesn't come up until there's a problem in a lot of cases,
Hmm.
until after the fact, until some guy goes on a rampage, until some guy, goes into a school or goes into a movie theater or goes to a presidential rally. A lot of the mental health aspects of men don't get brought up until after something tragic, unfortunately, has happened. It's
Hmm.
not one of those things that's in the forefront of the country's mind, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
which is wild to me with how big of a um, military industrial complex we have, how big the military is in this country, the fact that we don't focus on and how big a part of men that is in the military. It's the majority of the military is male. The huge swath of the population is male.
Hmm.
Um, and the fact that these issues are popping up, unfortunately more and more, and the fact that we're not talking more about men's mental health is just mind blowing to me.
Well, if you think about it this way, technically, like you said, the U.S. industrial complex, or rather, our military, is the biggest weapons factory in the country. You know,
Hmm.
'Cause we spend a lot of money on making sure that we know how to defend our country, but
Yeah,
we don't spend a lot of time or a lot of resources making sure we can defend the people who use those weapons and making sure
yeah,
that they're in the right mental state to be able to do
mm,
that. And it's really being able to walk away from that piece of their life
mm,
because
yeah,
a lot of people that I've known that I've been in contact with, I've been very blessed to know a lot of military people in my life, even though I've never had the desire to go into the military, but my parents worked as civilians, or I'm sorry, worked as contractors in the
Hmm.
government, and to be able to work with the military directly, with Air Force bases and things like that. But they made sure that if I was ever going to like look at the military, it was never something where we were fighting. It was never like the like boots on the ground, that type of thing, where because they understood it was a major risk that a lot of people, one, they don't come home, for being
Hmm.
completely honest, and two, they don't come home the same.
Yeah.
So it's hard for people to go from these crazy dangerous scenarios and situations and overseas, and even if it's domestic, but they don't have a chance to switch that off. It reminds me of like Muhammad Ali when he said that custom auto. Yeah, he was the greatest teacher he ever had, but he never taught him how to turn that off.
Hmm.
So if you could do that to a civilian and just a regular person, I mean, Mike Tyson's not regular, but like, let's be honest,
Yeah.
if you're raising somebody to do these things and have these thoughts and to kind of walk this path, but you're not teaching them how to balance that out and
Control
have
it.
that, yeah, have that control,
Yeah.
then it becomes more of a danger to society than it does to,
Mhm.
well, to themselves as well.
Absolutely. And I want to put a caveat in this, that this guy had no, as far as I know, no connection with the military or anything
Mhm.
like that. We kind of got on that point because of just a piece of it. How, we're kind of focused on, um, the world tends to have the ability to use men when it's necessary and discard them when we're
Mhm.
not. Is
Mhm.
like, and I think that happens, can happen quite a bit. And with this guy, I think it's kind of complicated because we don't know the full story of his background and different things like that. But I think I would think it would be an easy, not an easy leap to know that there was some kind of mental health issue going on in this scenario. There, and unfortunately, there usually is in these scenarios. There's some kind of mental health. Either there was a red flag, at some point where this person was struggling with their mental health and
Mhm.
different issues that they had going on, mental state or stability even, um, and somebody either it was either ignored, looked over, or just pushed to the side type deal.
So I actually did try to find some information about this guy.
Hmm.
Um, Prior to this, his name was Thomas Crooks. But you're right, he had no prior, military affiliation that anybody can kind of suss out. He was
Yeah.
on this website called Gab, where it's a more right wing leaning platform, and it seemed like he was more of a Biden supporter, but that's not really here or there.
Hmm.
He um, talking to some of his fellow students at the school that he graduated from, he had a real big interest in like the JFK assassination. That
Mm.
was, he had done like reports on that, and he was the typical loner, the
Yeah.
typical kind of nerdy, not really getting along with everybody, and you know
Yeah.
how cliquey schools can be and things like that. So,
Hmm.
man, it was kind of like just the typical story that you hear for somebody who ends up enacting this type of behavior, but it just ended up being tragic the way that it all kind of fell out, because somebody did die behind that. I'm blanking on the gentleman's name right now, but he was a firefighter. He was a first responder. Definitely
Hmm.
respect to the first responders, and love to his family. But um, man, it is sad because I feel like we're starting to see more and more of the people who are actually on the side of good, let's say, like
Hmm.
first responders, whether it's cops or firefighters and things like that, like they're getting um, residual, their collateral damage from these types of things.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Like you said, it's happening way too often. Let me check something real quick here.
Sure.
But yeah, it's one of those things where, so the thing we're trying to get down to is, like I said, not really getting into we're not going to dig into the whole political thing. There's a whole swath of people who are on that kind of stuff already.
Better
I'm seeing some.
suited than us.
Yeah, definitely. Um,
Better suited
because
than us.
if you want to go watch some rage porn, go ahead and go do that, because this isn't the place where you're gonna get that.
No.
But what we're talking about more is like, what is the what drives men to snap? Honestly, is like, whether it be um, the post office worker we've all heard, going postal and all these different things like that, to the guy, losing in the club, to, this guy. There, people don't see a lot of relation or correlation or anything like that with these guys. But
Hmm.
I think if you really start digging down into it, I think there is, and it might be real simple ways, but I think there are lines that you can draw from the guy that's fighting in the club because somebody stepped on his shoes, to the
Hmm.
guy that's showing up at a rally, with a rangefinder,
Hmm.
about to do some wild shit. I think there's lines that can be drawn to meet at some of these points, because a lot of these things are just extremes escalated to a certain
Hmm.
level. Like I said, the guy was a loner. There's probably some insecurity going on there. Like I said, that, and especially nowadays, I think a lot of guys, because a lot of guys now, men don't feel like they have purpose in
Hmm.
this world, that it becomes one of those things that when they go seeking purpose, you can end up in those dark places looking for purpose too.
Hmm.
They say, looking for love in all the wrong places. I think there are guys who go looking for purpose and understanding and value in all the wrong places. Whether it be gangs. I've known guys who fell into gangs. I've um, dabbled in that realm of things myself, and it's one of those things where it can almost feel like a brotherhood type deal going on, like people who understand you, people who you're valued in a way that sometimes society may not be showing you the value you think you deserve, or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
And it can be not contagious, but it can be sort of I'm looking for, um, enticing to a lot of guys to try and find that purpose, whether it be good or bad, whether it be trying to find the cure for cancer and getting his name in medical books and
Yeah.
name known around the world for that, or the guy that's like, well, if the world's not going to see that I'm important or valuable or everything like that, then I'm going to show them that I am. And
So there's so much to unpack with that, because you ever trying to think of the best example. So when you're not getting, it's like that classic Killmonger from Black Panther, where
hmm
he's like, if I can't feel the warmth of the village as a member of it, then I'll feel it when I burn it down to the ground. You know what I mean? It's definitely that.
yeah,
It's that get back of. It's almost like if I can't have it, nobody can, is what I'm assuming. But it's a
definitely.
lot of defensiveness that builds up behind that, because you are feeling like low man on the totem pole for a good bit.
hmm
And and plus social media and just how schools are in general, even with that, I feel like even if we didn't have social media, there's still um that breeding ground for that, because high school, I feel like, is that first real competitive arena that you come into. You know what I
Definitely.
mean?
hmm
Because you see people start to click up, and you start to realize who you are, maybe who you're not. And everybody has this air of, I now have my group, so I'm secure. And even a lot of the, like, quote unquote outliers or outcasts or nerds or whatever you want to call them, it's almost like they kind of get into that grouping by default,
hmm
because you're not popular, or you're not an athlete, or you're not super smart, or maybe you are super smart, but then that's the thing that gets put down, because I feel like our society, for the main part, is like, brawn over brains. They
Oh yeah.
want you to be strong, they want you to be capable, and they want you to do that thing, but they don't want you to think as much. They don't want you to be somebody who overthinks, because when you start to realize that you don't have to fit in the way that they want you to, you're then even further ostracized.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
We got
okay.
a comment from Soul. Appreciate that, man. Great conversation. So, man, we're going to get you in on this, man. Here in just a sec. I'm gonna send you an invite so you get in on this conversation, man, if you want to.
Yeah, I was about to say, because he was asking about it on the live, and there was no join button from there. So yeah, you probably just have to send him a StreamYard link.
Yeah, let me go ahead and send that up right now. Go ahead and finish
Cool.
what you're saying, man.
Yeah, but man, it's so honestly, like, because we say, and this is one thing I did kind of want to touch on. We say that there's like kind of two extremes. When we first got into Warriors Way Home, we talked about who our main like target audience was, and we said
Hmm.
that was Peter Parker. We said it was somebody kind of before he got the powers. It was
Yep.
somebody who didn't have a lot of self confidence, was smart, but not having the ability to display that without having to feel inferior to people around him. There's a lot of different pressures on him and things like that. But of course, like we say, with great power comes great responsibility. And once he gets those powers, it's like, okay, now he's like the perfect superhero, right? But this is something that I always kind of thought about in the back of my mind, and there was a version of that we didn't address, which is still very much in the realm of the people that we want to help, and it's
Right.
the Eddie Brocks. It's the people
Mm,
who feel slighted by life, and that everybody is kind of dumping on them, and it's like, well, what did I do? And they may not be taking responsibility for whatever piece that is, because we all have to take responsibilities for our actions. But it's somebody who feels like it's more, it's like that red pill mentality, honestly. Like, oh, women ain't this, and it's the job's fault that I'm not there no more, even though I got fired and all that kind of stuff. It's always blaming somebody else for whatever misfortune that you're going through, and not taking that full responsibility that's required to first grow through whatever that thing is,
yeah.
and also to change it. Because if it's everybody else's fault, you just want to get rid of them. You don't want to change whatever is in yourself, and you still have a large amount of like self-loathing that you have,
Hmm.
because it's not self-love that makes you go out and act and do these things and go shoot up schools and churches and grocery stores and things like that. It's everybody hates me, or everybody sees me as a monster, so that I'm going to choose to be the thing that they made me. But you chose to
Oh
be that
shit.
thing.
Oh man.
Bro, you chose to be that thing, and by admitting that, you then get
Hmm.
to change your perspective on it. So that's why, Peter Parker is like the weakling that we talk about, that we
Yeah.
want to help get strong. But the Eddie Brocks are the ones where we need to help rehabilitate them and change that mindset, because they're
Yeah.
already strong, but they're using that strength for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Because Eddie Brock was an asshole, if we're gonna be real.
Yeah,
but
for
but
sure.
man, to comment on what you just said, man, I think you said something key where you said, if the world doesn't love me and thinks I'm a monster, then I'm gonna show it how much of a monster I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be 100% real, man. I've actually said those words.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually said those words. That's why it hit home so much with me, because I've been um I, I never wanted to do, what old boy did, or go, do a school or anything like that. It's like, but man, I've definitely wanted to rage out and rampage 100%. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
lie about it.
I don't
You
know
know,
a
I've
man who
I've
doesn't.
I've definitely had those moments and come very, very, very close to tipping over that edge and crossing that line.
Mm-hmm.
Very closer than most. I'll
Mm-hmm.
put it that way, and I'll talk about that story probably at a later date. But much closer than most, probably would be willing to admit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's one of those things where I've definitely said those words where it's like, man, if the world doesn't love me, then fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if nobody in the world, yeah, if nobody in this world loves me, and I'm such a, um sees me as this monster, I'm this, um wants to push me to the side. It's like, okay. It's like, then I'm gonna be right in your face. I'm gonna become that monster. I'm gonna become that demon that, everybody seems to think I
Mm-hmm.
am. And for me, it always seemed like somebody was pushing,
Mm-hmm.
like trying to push for me to go there. It wasn't one of those things where, I can't say, it wasn't one of those things where I didn't feel. Um, for me, it was a little different. I felt pushed. I felt like people kept fucking with me. It
Mm-hmm.
was mine. It's like, I'm trying to be a good person. I'm trying to be this good guy. I'm trying to, live this, positive life. And for some reason, there'd be times where it always seemed like, when I was not in a strong place in my mind and in my being, where people would
Mm-hmm.
just come out of the works and like, hey man, let's fuck with this guy. Is that because he's so calm, he's not going to do anything,
Right.
or we don't, or we think he's not going to react. We think we're just going to we're going to poke the bear. We're just going to keep poking and poking and poking until the bear freaks out and tears you a new asshole. It's just-
Like, why do
and
you think we have the term watch out for the quiet ones. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like that's the
Hmm.
whole thought process behind that.
For sure.
You know, but
100%.
the loud ones can I ain't gonna lie, the loud ones can be just as dangerous, but they're not. See, I don't know because I've never been.
I don't worry about the loud ones.
Yeah.
I don't worry about the loud ones because the loudest one in the room is usually the weakest one in the room from what I've seen.
Hmm.
But that guy that's just chilling in the corner, that hasn't said anything to anybody, that's not fucking with nobody, but doesn't look like he's having a good time. That's the dude you don't want to fuck with.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, man, it's like, so for me, it was always just seems like people they would almost like kicking you when you're down. Like they would almost pick at that. It's like I think they could almost feel it where I was at my most vulnerable points, and
Hmm.
they'd be like, now it's time to fuck with them. It's like
Yeah.
now we're gonna shit on them,
Right.
and I would just be like, you know what? Okay, I'm not one of those ones that's gonna be like, okay, I'm just gonna go over here in the corner and cry. I'm like, time to burn the fucking world down. Okay, all right, let's go. It's like, come on, Pookie, let's burn this fucker down. Let's go. Let's go. Time to watch the world burn. I got the
Right.
lighter. You bring the gasoline. Let's fucking go. Okay,
Yeah,
rampage time.
for sure.
You know,
Now,
and I make light of it now because it's amusing to me now, but at the time, man, it took me to some really dark places. If I'm gonna be real about it.
mhm, to get even nerdier with that kind of like metaphor part of it. Did you ever watch Naruto as a kid?
Oh yeah.
So you remember Gara, right?
Look who it is. What up, soul
What's going on, brothers?
Hey,
brother?
how you doing?
Man, life is good, man. This is an amazing conversation, bro. And I was trying to get in on Instagram, but I couldn't figure it out for some reason, man.
Yeah, man. It was we're new to this whole
Yeah,
I didn't even know you
Streaming,
could
yeah.
stream to Instagram on StreamYard, so but we found out you can. So
yeah, man.
we'll have to figure that piece out.
That's super neat, man. I
Hmm.
think, and I missed the last 2 or 3 minutes when I was
Yeah.
coming through the process, man. But I just wanted to chime in real quick, bro.
Mhm.
I think this is a like beyond huge conversation. And I think it's very easy to identify men like the guy that just had the event with situation with Trump and the
Mhm.
school shooters like you talked about Columbine.
Mhm.
Like those guys stick out. But to be honest, if you look even below the people that have made big news, if you look at all the men that are in prison,
Mhm.
it's really the same issue, man. I believe a lot of it comes down to us as today's men handling our emotional state different than like our grandfathers did.
Mhm.
I personally, I think our grandfathers and a lot of our fathers, they were just more centered men. Like we always
Mm.
talk about the power of a man being centered in his energy, like that's how he rules the world.
Right.
But if
Yeah.
he's not centered, if he's on the other end of that, that means he's in ultimate chaos. And if you look at the stories of a lot of these guys, like these high school shooters, and a lot of those guys, just before it happened, they had some kind of event, happen in their life. Whether
Mhm.
it's a girlfriend,
Or a
if
bully
you
or mhm.
yeah, if you go back to the guy like the Joy Lane guy that did the Facebook shooting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
just hit it
Yeah.
out with hit with this girl. The guy that had the issue, the situation down in South Texas, down by Laredo area at the elementary school.
Mhm.
Him and his like mother or aunt, whatever, just got into a situation. So I believe it's an emotional state issue.
Yeah.
Like when men just start to become more centered,
Mhm.
then they can handle life a little better. I think, man.
But let me
So
ask you this. So,
go ahead.
sorry, real quick, Travis, because I want to make sure this is on my mind. When you, how do we get out of that? Because we, especially in the Black community, there's not a lot of emotional support systems. Either parents are always working, or their parents are split, or nobody has that emotional
Yeah,
resilience, let's say,
yeah.
to be able to
You
handle
know,
that.
I think that I personally think that a man will learn it over time, and I'm really speaking to men that don't have fathers. Because
Mhm.
if I'm honest with myself, if I go back, I'm sure I was in that state in my 20s and just didn't really think I was, because when I hit 29 and I got to that low depression and I was
Mhm.
like on the edge of not really going out some school or something, but harming myself.
Mhm.
It was I couldn't deal with life. Like, and when I say deal with life, what I mean is us as men, or like we have to be, and I'll use the word stoic just for, I don't know, we have to be men that operate off duty and operate, like you said the word some weeks ago, Brother Edmund, mechanical. Everyone, ever since I heard you say that word, man, it's had so much meaning, because that's how we're supposed to act. Like when life is happening to us, money, relationships, whatever, we're supposed to be men that stay in that state, because if we don't, now we're tapping into our feminine energy. And that feminine energy is supposed to be chaos, but chaos fits in that feminine realm. We can't be men with that, because then you end up with school shootings and presidential, they don't mix, man.
Right. So, question for you. So, you mentioned, our fathers and grandfathers and everything like that, kind of moved in a different kind of way. I think a lot of that's because they saw it, even if they didn't maybe have dad at home or something like that. I think they saw that. So, you mentioned that you kind of felt like you were in your 20s. So, what advice would you give yourself in your 20s during that time? I mean, because we're talking about, we always try and do solutions, like, what would be the solution for, this guy in that moment to, make that switch, to not cross that line. Because there's a few things that I know I would definitely tell myself 100% for sure.
Yep. What I would suggest, man, to be honest, what I would suggest is exactly what guys are doing. They're just doing it wrong because they don't understand. And what I would suggest is just find a circle of brothers. If it's the guys in your neighborhood, even if it's some older men working on cars down the street, like put yourself around those guys. But guys understand that. But one thing, like we talked about before, they're looking for that masculinity, but they're going towards the dark side of the complete, the gang makers, drug dealers, because from a young man, 15, 16, 18, 20, when he sees the guy that has the ladies and has the shiny things, in his mind, he's saying that's what I'm supposed to be. Of course, it doesn't fit society's norm, but that has to be what I'm supposed to be. And a lot of them go down that route, and we know how that ends up, man. But I would just say find somebody, find a circle, man.
Definitely, I think that's definitely a powerful way. I'm thinking back on when I went through my time, and I think you're definitely right. You're really onto something. I think a lot of these guys are solo. I think a lot of these dudes, because I didn't feel like I had anybody. I was like, man, I felt alone. This is 100%, which is probably one of the most dangerous places for me to be. Was alone with my own thoughts at that time was the most dangerous place in this world I could have been at that time. Because and some of the people I was around, some family and everything like that, it's like, people get so busy that they don't really notice it. But when you get around guys who have been through some different things, different situations, like I recognize it now in guys when I see it, it's like, hey, bro, you good? It's like, yeah. No, it's like, nah, man. It's like, in conversations, it even comes up.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you're angry. Yeah. It's like, nah, man, no, I'm not. It's like, no, bro, I see it in you. It's like, I'm not asking you if you're angry. I am telling you, it's coming off of you. It's like heat coming off you. I can smell it on you. It's like the anger it's you're hiding it, but I can see it. It's like, and if you don't do something about that, it is going to explode, and it is going to be ugly.
And men are good at hiding it, man. Like I've had two, maybe three. I know I've had two guys that were very close to me that took their lives, man. And you just didn't know. You didn't see it coming until you look back, and then you will hear it. You can hear a man ask for help if you listen hard enough, man.
Yeah.
When a man says he's tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was only it's crazy that's kind of where the direction of this went, because when I think about being able to recognize, having enough, especially as a man, having enough emotional intelligence to be able to see the nonverbal cues of somebody who's very short, like who's very close to the end or the edge or whatever you want to call it. There's also a small pocket of men who just know not to mess with that guy. You know what I mean? Who recognizes the quiet guy in the corner, or maybe he doesn't even look suspicious, but he can look at you and say that. And the only men that I've been able to see who saw that were in the military.
Mm.
And I'm wondering, just to kind of bring it full circle, I'm wondering, especially you, so being in the military, with your history, what is it that gives you that sixth sense? Is it just the combat that you be in, or is it
Mm.
the discipline that you end up getting from training, or having to see people go through the ranks of day one during basic training to the last day of combat?
Mm.
How do you
I
get
would
that?
I would say you get that intuition, if you call that, man, just through camaraderie, man.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the same thing that I felt. Because matter of fact, there was a guy, I forgot about this guy. I was easy a third guy then. When I was in the
Mm-hmm.
military, he took his own life. He couldn't come back. He couldn't come back home. His wife was doing some things. She was writing him letters saying, "Hey, I'm out." And he was crying out to leadership, "Hey, I gotta go. I gotta go."
Yeah.
And you can almost see. You could almost, looking back, you almost knew this guy was going to end it somehow. But
Mm-hmm.
he was in such close proximity, you just didn't see how he could do it. But everybody knew he was on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, it can be seen, but I think it's just that camaraderie. Because another gentleman that snapped by taking his own life, the day before he came to work and he tossed a bullet the whole day. Tossing a bullet, but this old country boy, big truck, didn't nobody think nothing of it. But everybody remembered that the next day. So I don't know. I don't know. I think if we just listen, man, and look at someone outside of their normal, ways of being, man, we can pick it up, bro. But
It's
a
a
man
cry
can
for
get
help.
there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had conversations with there was a couple guys I went to school in high school with, and this was, I think, after Columbine.
Mhm.
And I think I actually sat one guy down because he was, I mean, if you looked up school, school pew pew,
Mhm.
you would have saw him in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Overcoat in the
Yeah.
summertime,
Yeah.
just kind of an odd
Yeah.
guy,
Steel toe boots.
Hey, Exhibit A.
boots, had a bit of an odor to him because he's wearing a jacket in the
Yeah.
Yeah.
summertime. Just a kind of an outcast that nobody
Mhm.
really dealt with. And I don't know, man. I saw him one day, and it was just and this was probably the time where I was I'd probably say in the middle, maybe not in the middle, yeah, probably in the middle of my stuff, or like right in the uptick of what I had going on mentally. And I saw him, and I was just like, this dude's gonna do something crazy. And I just sat and talked to him for a minute. I was like, hey man, how you doing? Never talked to him before in my life. I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh man, I'm cool. He's like, are you? You good? He's like, what's going on, man? What's up? He's like, so yeah, here by yourself. Why you out here by yourself? And just sat and talked to him for like, I think we only talked for maybe like 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But I never saw him again. But he also never did anything again. Well, no, I did see him again. I kept seeing him. I saw him in school, but after school, I never saw him again.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, he always kind of, I don't know. It's hard to explain. He was different.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's because he felt seen, like somebody actually saw him,
Somebody gave a fuck.
or
Yeah.
what it was.
That's
But
a lot, man.
it was just a little bit, like
Yep.
not even a lot. Like most people wouldn't notice. If you didn't know him, you would have thought he was the same guy.
Mhm.
But it was almost like every time I saw him, it was just a nod. It's
Mhm.
like, hey, I see you.
Yeah.
That was it.
Hmm.
So it's like that homeless gentleman that you tell us about sometimes,
Mhm.
where it's just the fact that some one other person out of however many billion people on this planet took the
Yeah.
time to say hello to you.
Man, yeah.
You know what I
Man,
mean?
you know what? And I never knew this was a thing until when I went to my lowest point. Like I know it, like when you see people that are homeless,
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what they feel. Like when I'm walking down, or we are walking down a city street, and you got people over there and they're living on the street and they're dirty, they don't even feel like they're human.
Yeah.
Like they really don't feel human, because I wasn't even close to that type situation. I was still under a roof, and it was just rough. They were about to take everything. And when I left the house, like nobody knew that. I still had on regular clothes, but my energy that I was putting out I was just like the people under the bridge. And people felt that. And so even strangers treated me like I wasn't human. So man, it's a real thing. Like a man really has to do that inner work, because if he doesn't, when life happens, either he's gonna snap somehow or another, and it might be on himself, it might be on other people. But man, it's important, man. But like you said, just like what you did to that man, to that young brother, you could have saved a whole lot of lives, even his own, man, just by acknowledging him. Because a lot of young people, man, a lot of parents don't acknowledge their kids.
Yeah,
throw them in front of the TV for 18 years, and then they're just like, "What I do now?" You know.
And I think what it was is that I saw a piece of me in him. You know, I knew that I was like, something bad is going to happen. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's going to go, you know, snapping here, or like you said, just take himself out. But I was like, I feel like a piece of my pain, I could see it in him. Is like, and I think that's what got my attention, was not wanting to see that in somebody else. Is like it can be jarring, and I think it can almost make sometimes people, you know, move away from that because they haven't dealt with their own stuff, because they, you know, kind of see, when they see that in somebody else, they're like, man, I know I don't want to see that. I'm not prepared to deal with that whole thing yet. And it's one of those things, I think a lot of times, especially with guys, is one of those things that we just let the, hey man, how you doing? Oh, I'm cool thing go. It's like, okay, cool. Is that when I think there's a piece of us that knows that something's not right here. Is like there's, you know, it's like, and it's like I was telling Ed before you hopped on, it's like, you know, there are people who can sense that, and there, you know, people who will step in and you know take the time and like, hey man, you good? You know, you need to talk to me. You know, how's your day going? Blah blah blah, and just interject themselves in your life for that split moment. And there are other people that will kick you while you're fucking down. It's like, and I had that experience where I was like, that's what probably made me want to burn the world down, was having those moments. It's like they could sense when I was at my weakest and at my lowest, and they wanted to hop on me like hyenas. And I was like, okay.
That's wild, man.
I was like, all right, bet.
You know something? My bad, bro. My bad.
No, that was it.
I was like, you know something, man, and I was just thinking about this a second ago. Like, I think there's something that us as men of color in America can't really identify with. Because going back to the guy, the Trump guy, you know, that situation. What if he was meant to? Because I don't know anything about him. I know I've seen his picture, I think, and I saw this. But what if he was mentally stable? What if he was just that diehard of a patriot for his country that he felt that strong? And the reason I say that us as us as black men in America can't identify, because I don't care what we say. We can fight wars, we can fly flags. We don't have that much love for this country. Like not enough. We don't. Not enough to say, you know what? I don't want this person to be in the White House because it's my. But think about if we were in the continent. What if we were in Africa? What if we were in Johannesburg and somebody? That's where our family, our roots from ever was that.
Yeah.
We would feel different about it.
Yeah.
And now somebody's going to come in and be a president. I'm not saying they should do that. I think it still comes down to the same emotional state. But maybe some guys are just really standing on pride in something else and really just
you were threatening the continuation of something of this.
But I don't think we can identify that being here, because we're like, man, why would we do that for this country? That
I actually thought about that for a hot second. Like, you know, what if this dude actually really thought like he was doing the work?
Yeah, you know, he didn't go after civilians.
It's like nobody's about this. It's like, if nobody's going to do it, I'll stand up and do it. You got to be willing to die for something, and I'm willing to die for this.
Yeah,
you know, because, it's like, and that definitely could for sure be a thing, 100%.
Because what if all of us, let's say everybody in the power circle lived in one neighborhood and it was a perimeter, and we came under attack. All of us would kind of feel a sort of, hey, you know what, like if I got to be the one to go out, I'm going out because this is us, or this is our neighborhood. Or even if somebody comes in your house, you know what? You don't care if there's 5 guys coming to your house. You're going out there first. And if you got to take the L, you're going to take the L.
I think some men, especially these days, because if you think about like kind of centuries ago, it was like that all the time. You could go to war at any time. So you had to have like be on your toes and make sure your blade was sharp and all that kind of thing. You had something to die for at any given minute. Unless you're in the military now, what does the average man have that? Where does he have that ability to express the passion or love or just the ferocity. He doesn't have a place to put that.
No.
So if you're talking about, oh well, I gotta fight for my country, like the
Call of Duty.
I'm not gonna say that.
Call of Duty. That's where he has to put it.
Well, yeah,
Call of Duty.
but you know, people attach themselves to a cause, and if they feel strongly enough for it, they're like, no, because this is now the place where I can have some type of purpose. And I mean, we talk about purpose all the time, but we look at it as how can I be the best person for my community? But what is the difference between the way we do it and the way, like, you know, some maybe more right-wing people do it? Their purpose is now to defend this party, defend this country. And like you said, probably closer to being a white man is easier to be like, oh, I have to fight for this thing because my entire world, I have the privilege to do so. I had one, there was one guy that I used to have a summer job with. I was 19, he was 17. And we were doing we were painting houses for the summer. And all he talked about was going to the military. He could not wait to go overseas to fight for his country. But some people will also use that as an excuse to perpetuate great violence because they can't do it on U.S. soil. They don't have a reason to. But if you tell me I can legally go over here and do whatever I got to do under the guise of protect my country, I think there's a reason why war, there's kind of like no rules in it for real. Because I talked to a couple of training partners that I had. They were all, previous military or trying to get back into active because they said there's a freedom in war. And I could not understand it for a good 30 minutes. And I was like, what do you mean there's free? And then I was like, well, you don't know if you're coming home. You don't know if you're gonna be alive tomorrow in the next 5 minutes. You go over this hill, that could be it for you. So I'm gonna live my life the way I want to for the next however long it takes. And I know we keep kind of harping on the military, but it's because civilians don't have a place to put that energy. So, dying in war is glamorous to some people. So if you can't do that in a way that is like protecting the country, I'm going to do it in a way where I'm just lashing out. And now you're going to remember me one way or another, So I feel like some people try to go after that immortality of, because it is a lack of control. We know that. But it's also that freedom of I'm going to cause as much havoc as I can because I'm going to die in the next 30 minutes anyway.
Yeah. I think some people jump behind the badge with the same demeanor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they just, they want to stand for, it's an energy that, like you say, you got to find it in Call of Duty before you snap though.
Well, I think the Call of Duty thing, I think honestly, I think the barrier is so low now. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying something along the lines of he's gonna laugh when he hears this. He's like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm ready for World War III." I said, "Fuck no, you're not." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "I'm not ready for that shit." I said, "I want to live my cushy life, bro." I said, I want no parts of that." I said, "That sounds good when it's a video game."
Yeah.
I said, in actuality, in reality, it's like I've talked to enough, dudes in the military, special forces and shit like that. War is hell. It's like it's while while there's peace in it and different things like that, it is hell. It's like I want no pieces of that. I don't. Is like, and that's the reality of it. But I think we've become such a soft society now that we're willing to fight over stupid shit.
Yeah.
To be honest with you,
exactly.
Because I mean, now it's one of those things that if you say something that I disagree with, then we can't be cool anymore. It's like if you're Republican and I'm Democrat, then we can't be cool anymore. If you're Democrat and I'm Republican, we can't be cool anymore. If you believe in God and I don't believe in God, it's like fuck you. It's like we fight over the stupidest shit now, almost to the point where it's like we almost would need an Independence Day to even get our shit together. To have, that something higher than us. And I think that's what war does, is because so you've talked about, you've had guys in the military who like never met a black guy until he was in his 20s and didn't even know why he didn't like black guys. But he's the same guy that was in that damn foxhole with you, who had your back, who when somebody sneaked up behind you, he's got you. You're somebody sneaking behind him, you've got him. All that bullshit goes away at that point. And I think for the most majority of society, the bar is set so low that it
Yeah.
almost feels like Call of Duty is real life at
Mhm.
this point. It's like I was like I'm a hero, and even if Edmund disagrees with me, then it's up to me to fight him because he
For your
disagrees with
beliefs.
me.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
for my beliefs, for my people, for my country, it's up to me to fight him, to take him down
Right.
because he believes differently than I do. Not
Mhm.
because he actually did something to me, not because there was some kind of he actually attacked me or did anything to me, but because he believes and thinks differently than I do.
That's
So I have to
crazy.
attack him.
It's a perceived threat.
Mhm.
If we have different beliefs, and let's say on the slim chance you're right,
Hmm.
my whole life has been a lie.
Mhm.
I have to defend that lie because
Yeah.
it's all I've known.
Yeah.
And the way things they get so rooted in us from such a young age, or I don't have a purpose, so then I have to attach myself to whatever I can get my hands on, and now that's my new identity.
Or
You don't
something
have
will
to.
attach to you.
Well, yeah.
If you don't have a purpose, something else will find life will find
I
a purpose
mean,
for you.
cults, gangs, basically any organization where it's like, oh, if you don't feel church, okay.
I mean, how do you think women become? I mean, we're taking a whole different way. How do you think women become hookers?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you don't usually see a woman who has a dad at home who always told her she loved him out
Hmm.
here roaming the streets with a pimp. You usually don't see
Hmm.
that.
Right.
It's just like they don't go for that. They go for the smallest smallest weakest of the flock
Right.
Mhm.
to take control of. And
Easily
I think it's the same thing with
manipulable.
guys as well.
Yeah, yeah. Can easily be manipulated. Doesn't have anybody who's going to come to their defense. They're not talking to anybody anyway,
Hmm.
so they're very easy to separate. And even if you have good parents, if you start to get hooked up with that new belief, whatever that it is, and you are so perfect example. Let's say you grew up in a Christian household and you decided you want to become Muslim.
Mhm.
You already know what type of fight you're about to be into because everybody that you've ever known and grown up with has always been Christian. People get ostracized because they even choose to have a new belief system. And like we say all the time, it's like there's a good 90, I don't know, upper 90% of people who will just take what is given to them and run with it and not really ask those questions. And as somebody who starts poking the bear or start picking that thread, you are now starting to dismantle their belief from the inside.
Mhm.
That's my child. That's my brother. That's my mom. That's my whatever. And you're just trying to keep the peace because if I think different than them, I can't be here anymore.
Mhm.
So
Facts.
what do you do with that?
Mm.
Yeah. To be honest, I think at some point every man comes to that point in his life. Like at some point, if
As
he's
he
living
should.
hard enough,
Hmm.
he's gonna hit that wall where it's like, okay, now I'm gonna cross a threshold where my life and my thoughts are my own.
Hmm.
And it might just be one or two things different from what everybody else thought, and it's gonna be enough to be like, oh, well, you're different than us. And I think most men will have to see that line and either stay back. And a lot of men, I think most men do stay back.
They
I
do.
think
Yeah.
a lot of it goes back to kind of like the example David Dieter talked about in his book, Live as If Your Dad Were Dead or something like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Way to Superior Man. I think when up until I read that, man, when I first read that, I didn't understand how free I was that my father passed so young. Like I thought about that for days, saying, man, would I have done this at 16? Would I have done this at 21? Would I have done this to this? I said, man. And then I looked at some of my friends, like friends of mine from youth, and their father and my father were friends, how they were locked in a cell, how
Hmm.
they were just like their fathers, moved and talked and operated, believed. And I was like, I get it now. I didn't have that wall, and I don't know if I would have gone outside of that. I really don't know because I don't know what that feels like to have a father at 21, and I gotta decide what he thinks. Right? I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
So
Truthfully, you miss the competition.
yeah,
There is a competition that comes out of a man at some point when he starts to walk his own walk, and his father has spent all of this time trying to teach him the right ways, but maybe some of those things are starting to be contradictory to his new truth. So then there's a competition of damn it, I'm so much like my dad. I got to do something different. Even if he's successful, even if he is the perfect, he's a pillar of the community and did right by you and all this stuff, there is still going to be a piece of you that wants to rebel. I'm speaking from experience. So it's a how far away from this archetype can I get and so I can be me, and it doesn't even have to be malicious, but there's a competition between who you were when you were growing up versus who you're trying to be in the future. That's all.
You know, I think, man, that's good. I'm glad you pointed that out, man. I'm glad, because that made me think of some things. I think just as fathers, period, that a man should, of course, have his own way of living and have that structure. But I think it should be to the point, at least as his child gets older, where that fence kind of comes up. Where it's like, hey, you know what? Like, you're not held here anymore. Or even from the root, you know, like even my son, I tell him, like, my son knows what I think and what I believe, but I never force it on him. He hears me talking on YouTube videos, or he hears me, or we might read some book stuff together, but I want him to have his own belief from this point. You know, like, I want him to see me move a certain way, but his thoughts, I want it to be his own, because that's a prison. It's a prison, man. Like, a lot of men are in prison from their father. So I get why Dita said that, man.
So let me ask, you know, I was thinking about when you guys were talking, there seems to be a pattern with a lot of these guys where, if we really look at it, the majority of these guys didn't make it out of their 20s before they did what they did. A lot of these guys, it was either like, because this guy was in his early 20s, I think, something like that.
He was 2 years out of high school, 19, 20, not even.
The majority of these guys who do this are, let's say, 20 and under.
Yeah.
So the question is, like, have they even lived long enough to develop their own way of being, to discover their own mind, or is it outside influences that they've let turn them and make these decisions? Because if you asked me when I was 20, I was like, looking back at it then, is like how can I put it? I wasn't the best guy when I was in my 20s.
Nobody is.
It's like, I mean, I was on the surface, I was a good guy, but, you know, internally it was turmoil. I mean, it was like a tsunami inside. If I'm be real, kind of like that. You know, you see it on the top of the ocean or the river, and it's all calm, and underneath it's just chaos. That's how I was. That's how I was inside.
You know, what I believe, man, and I remember saying this. I don't know where I was saying this. It might have been a month or two ago, but there's a window, and I meant to make a YouTube video on this, man. It was on Father's Day. I was going to talk about this. Like there's a window that every man, if he has if it's a young man listening, or a young man or a father with a son around 17 to 23, that's a window of horrible opportunity, man. Like
horrible opportunity.
Wow. Bro, 17 to 22, 23, man, that's the most dangerous time for a man. Even when I'm telling you this, when I was living from 17 to about 20 years old, there's no way in the world, if I wouldn't have gone to the military, I wouldn't have been doing lots of time in prison. No way in the world, man. And everybody around me was going through that same thing. It's just like a man has to, like a young man has to, he has to have somebody in his corner during those times. Because if he doesn't, man, he's gonna be new on the block. He's just now creating his own hypnotic rhythm. It's like a brand new baby again. Except a brand new baby in the world that can be prosecuted now. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
Yeah. So it's I guarantee you, if you look at men in prison, I guarantee you the far majority went right then. It's a dangerous little window, man.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
And I think you touched on something key, man, is that there has to be I think there has to be guys who have, come out of that stuff. We have to be grabbing up dudes when they're in between that age, that 17 to 23, is like, especially if we know they don't have any guidance. We have to be like, bro, hey, man, I'm going here. No, you're not. Come here. Yeah. It's like, we gotta be grabbing them up, man. Because I wish somebody had scooped me, had grabbed me up by my collar back then. Because honestly, the only reason I'm here right now is because of hope, prayer, and duct tape. That's the only reason. That's the only reason I'm sitting here right now, because This is
Cook up the
probably some of
water.
the realest shit I've
Yeah.
I've said before. Is like, man, I didn't have a plan on being this old.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't part of my plan. I thought I would have been gone by now.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, up until probably my like 20, like late 20s. Man, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
How? Because I had, I had no plans on making it probably past 25.
So
I didn't think I would. I was like, with the way I was moving and things that was going on with me, I was like, nah, I'm gonna be gone.
Yep.
Probably not even jail. I'm gonna be gone.
yeah. Truthfully, I was telling somebody about this morning. I was at the gym and I ran into this guy. He always just kind of comes in and out. He's a Marine. And we got to talking, just, he had asked me about my tattoos and stuff like that. And we just got to chopping it up. And one thing that came up was everybody who in my life that has been of some great influence has been attached to the military in some capacity. Soul was in the military. My favorite boxing coach back home, he was a Marine. It just so many people. My best friend, he was active duty military, like right after I had met him, or got out, like right around that time that after I met him. But there was one brother who he was like one of my main influences for a long time. But it was between that 19 to 23, probably like 22 range. But he was also the worst influence that I had, because he was somebody who, we talk about, don't go back to the old. You know what I'm saying? He was somebody who had went to the military, came back, but he came back and got right in the streets. He was somebody who, but it was weird because he wasn't just like, dealing or something like that. He was like the man. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to be hood famous. You know what I mean? He wanted to be known for, the little 937 area code that was his. You know what I mean? And I had got hooked up with him like right after a breakup with a girlfriend that I was at high school. And out of whatever the situation was, he texted me one day. He needed a ride to the gun range, and he asked me if I wanted to go. And I was like, I ain't got no money. He was like, I ain't asked you that. And from that point on, up until because I had to break that relationship off because I realized how bad of an influence he was for me. But he took me under his wing. You know what I'm saying? I was already in a messed up place, and he was like, hey, we'll just kick it. And then and we had never hung out for real before, but for some reason that was the day. And he just got me at the right time. And you never know when that time is. You never know when you're going to meet the person who's going to change your life, good, bad, or indifferent. So, when I finally broke it off, it was funny because I had a bad habit of just kind of splitting off from friends, and I just I would disappear. But he was the only person who I said goodbye to, like face to face. And I was just like, man, I can't do this. I can't do all of this right now. And I don't know when I'm coming back, and I probably won't. And he respected it.
That's why you had a conversation. That says a lot, because usually if I part ways, I just part ways. Like it's just like it's just kind of a mutual understanding. Like, hey, bro, we still cool. Like, you still my boy. If we don't talk for the whole year, like, or whatever, or again, like it's a wrap.
And that was the way I was taught. But that for some reason, I still had a lot of love for him. You know what I mean? Because he taught me a lot. Yeah, he definitely taught me a lot. But I was just like, where I'm trying to go, you can't follow. I need you to stay here. You know what I mean? So for sure.
So let me ask y'all this, man. What and I'm looking at the banner, psychology of a shooter. Why me and Snap? What do y'all think? Because surely it's not politics. Is there anything in life that would push you to that edge to armor up and go to an event? To like, what line would somebody have to cross to put you in that mode?
For me, it would be fucking with my family. 100%. That's the
like third cousins, or like mama, daddy.
I would say I would say probably like nieces, sister, mom.
Yeah.
That
cousin,
sort of
sisters,
thing.
Auntie.
Is like it's like you fuck with my family, you better hide. That's just, that's how I've always been. My sister, she was here. She would talk so much shit about me because I threatened many of her boyfriends before. Like, hey man, and for me, it was just a talk. It was just, it was a preemptive strike. Like, hey bro, pull him to the side, be like, hey, go inside. Me and him are gonna talk. It's like, hey man, this is my sister. It's like my baby sister. Is like, I love her. Take care of her, because if you don't, I'll put your dick in the dirt. Cool.
Sure.
Have a good day. And then
Toodles.
And that was basically it. It wasn't one of those. It was just like, no, I will bury you.
Yeah.
It's like,
you know what? When a man does cross that line, like when he hits that line where he's like, you know what, I'm all in. He's pretty much either ready to die at that point or spend the rest of his days in prison.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a thought anymore. Like, he's like, you know what? I'm doing it. I don't care what the outcome is. I'm doing it. Yeah. And a man that's in that zone, bro. You can't really do nothing with him, man. Like,
unstoppable.
He's gone at that point. He's mentally like kamikaze mode. You know what I mean? Like, so
ready to go, man.
He don't matter, because think about it. Somebody missed, like you said, like your mother or your kids or you. Like if somebody did something to my son, bro, I'd be like, you know what? This is my last day on the planet. Like, I don't concern with that.
Demon time activated.
Right.
Yeah. Right. God, now what do I got to do to terminate that situation?
Right.
I get when people, but I don't get when people get like that and just want to go out and hurt little kids or, that don't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I know the point they're at, but I don't know why they got there is what it is, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Man. I would say for me, so this at first when Travis brought this to me, this was a hard conversation. This is a conversation I didn't want to have because this was something that I had personally felt up until a point. I never went out and did nothing like that. I was always, through the grace of God, I was always very aware. I was always very able to like, all right, this is how I'm feeling, but is that the right thing to do? And that thought feels good, but I shouldn't engage with that. So for me, to get to that point, it would have to be somebody close to me that I recognize as innocent. You know what I mean? Because I have this understanding that we're all not perfect. None of us are fully good or fully bad. So it's up to you to self-regulate what is the right thing to do. You know what I mean? But there are people who are close to me, whether they're just friends or family. For me, it's children. Because I do spend a lot of time around children. So because that is the crystallization of innocence. They don't know no better. So for you to go into a kindergarten or any like this high school counts, but you start to become an asshole in high school. You know what I mean? So some people start to put that into other people because of their home life and all that type of stuff. But for me, it is anybody who I deem innocent just because I know them. I'm close enough to them. So anybody who's a child, I had a childhood friend of mine. She's like my sister. I just call her my sister because I've known her since, pre-K. And that's the only person I've known since back then. And we got separated for a good amount of time. And when I finally met back up with her, she had a younger sister. And as soon as I met this little girl, I was like, that's my younger sister. And I pray you don't do nothing stupid to her. And it just, for whatever reason, I just immediately had that feeling and that love for her. And maybe it was just because she was attached to somebody who already had that love with as well. But man, it's that children getting abused and whether it's, physical, sexual, emotional, whatever, it's just something starts to turn up in me where I'm like, this isn't my fight, but I'm about to make it my fight because children deserve to be protected.
Yep, I agree, man. I agree. That's way outside the lines, Like it don't even make sense.
So, would you guys say that every man should have something he's willing to die for?
Absolutely.
I think so, man. I think if he doesn't, he's not living hard enough. Because even if a man doesn't have, let's say, for example, a man is just a nomad. He lives on his own. He has no kids. Parents are gone. No sister, brother. No aunts. It's just him. He should still stand on some kind of cause Kind of like the movie. What's the movie with Denzel in when he was blind?
Book
Book of Eli.
You know, he was Roman. He didn't have nothing but himself, but he still stood on certain things that he was willing to go to bat for. Like, don't hurt people, and this word I have, like, I'm standing on this word. I'm willing to die for it.
Yeah.
So I think a man should stand on something, or he really. I can't say he isn't living, but man, I don't know.
I feel like
if you notice in a lot of and we're talking fantasy here, but you know, there's always a pinch of reality in fantasy. If you notice in a lot of these movies like Jason Bourne and a lot of these, you know, things like that, where these guys are where a lot of times dudes are taken and kind of brainwashed, turned into this weapon. That's the case in a lot of cases. What you just mentioned is like either they're, you know, orphan, have no family, have no, you know, they're just roaming or something along those lines. They don't have, you have basically nothing to lose. And then we take you, and because you don't have something to stand on, you don't have a mission, we're going to give you one. And this is your mission from now on.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times I think some of that spills over into reality at times. You know, where a lot of guys can, because they don't have a purpose, because they don't have a mission, you know, guys maybe similar to this dude take up somebody else's mission because they don't have their own.
For sure.
Dang.
Makes sense. It's like that. If you don't stand on something, you'll die for anything, or you'll fall for anything, or whatever. But
yeah, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah. But also, because you asked that question, and I was like, man, for a long time it was just me. You know, I would still give because that's how I was taught. But for a long time, it was just I was standing on I am to be protected because that's all I have, kind of thing. But there's a survival. There should be some level of survival that goes with that too, which is why I've never really understood people who go like, you know, suicide by cop, or they'll do like the school shootings and things like that, and then they'll get taken out because they know they will. But it's like, even if you're lashing out, why is there no self-preservation there? Does it go back to that self-loathing like we talked about?
Yeah.
Where,
usually,
you know,
usually you don't care about yourself.
Yeah.
But
what about those who do?
You're like, I don't give a fuck about me.
Right.
So why would I give a fuck about you?
But then, okay, so if we're going that route, then we have the psychopaths and the serial killers and things like that, where they're picking off whoever they can, but they're doing everything they can to get away. What is the difference?
I would say that self-protection is like that self-value. If you look at even the profile of a psychopath and everything like that, their level of self-esteem is like fucking here. It's like they do not have a problem with self-esteem. You know, morality and what's the word I'm looking for?
Empathy.
Feeling what other people feel. Empathy. Their level of empathy is zero, but their level of self-importance and self-esteem is through the fucking roof, is off the charts. They value themselves above everybody else. You know, it's like, so that's not their problem. That's why they a lot of times do whatever they can to get away, even though, you know, a lot of them you'll see, you know, still want to leave notes and leave clues to, you know, really make themselves seem.
I want you to catch me so they know I did it.
Yeah. You know, write books when they get caught and all that type of shit. Is like, because this is self-importance that's there. So I think you're talking about. I think there's two different. I think there's two different animals.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, it's definitely a spectrum, because you can have people who they want to delete themselves, but they don't want to hurt anybody else, but they will through that collateral damage. Or you have those who, you know, have that, like you said, high importance, or that ego, most likely, is if it's all ego, and then it's about look what I did kind of thing. But in the middle, is that just a man with purpose, a man who doesn't want to be on the, well, maybe we're talking about two different scales here, but I'm just kind of wondering, like, how do you go from, you know, I don't know.
From what? Okay, I'm gonna take. I didn't think I was gonna get this real here. For me,
it's your fault.
For me in my moment, the few times that I've snapped, I went from being Travis, who cared about the world and different things like that, to this guy that didn't give a shit about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there's a place in everybody that can reach where you just don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a place in everybody. For some people, it takes a lot more to get there, but I think there's a place in everybody that if enough shit happens to you, that you just won't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I said, I think there's levels to it. For some people, that bar is really low. And I think for some people, that bar is really high. Like the people who, have that self-value. Like, for instance, Edmund, to be real, for you, I think that bar is really high. For you to get to the point where you just wouldn't give a shit about you or anything else, I think that bar is very high. Mm-hmm. For me, at that point, that bar was not that high. Mm-hmm. My fuse was not that long. It did not take. It took compound to happen, but when it got there, it was like something broke. Mm-hmm. And that piece of me that gave a shit about the world and cared about, helping people and didn't want to hurt anybody and all these different things like that went away.
Mm-hmm.
What made it go away though? Like what? Because I can identify what you're saying, but what inside of you took you from caring to not caring?
I think it was just a compound. I think it was over time, just having that just piled inside of me, just stuffing it down and stuffing it down and stuffing it down, and just not being able to really talk to anybody about what was going on in a real kind of way that was actually like beneficial. Because I was even, and here's the fucked up part, I was in therapy at the time when this happened. But my therapist wasn't great. She actually would get me to the point where I was riled up, ready to go, and be like, okay, and our session's over now. So I'll see you next week. Yeah, man, it was terrible. I was like, you were gonna get people killed. That's like, because you've taken me to the peak, the peak, and then you're gonna be like, all right, see you next week.
Might not be no next week.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not gonna be next week for anybody. Nobody will be next week.
Right.
The counter will be wiped. It will be burned away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took me to that peak. I didn't have the tools, and no one showed me the tools to bring myself back down. Was the thing. It was kind of like no, I didn't know that off switch. I didn't know how to turn it off. I knew how to turn it on, and to get to that point, but I had no idea how to turn that shit off. So it just stayed on. And eventually it gets to the point where it's like the breaker broke. It just, that fuse flipped, and it just was like, it's over.
Man, I know that feeling, bro. I would say for me, like, cause I remember hitting that switch where I was like, I don't care about nobody. For me, man, it was the fact that up until like around 30 years old, before between 20 and 30, I was just such a giving person, man. Like if somebody needed something, it was like, man, like I'll get a shirt off my back, literally, to a stranger, and still will. What changed for me is when I understood that everybody wasn't like that. Like what I'm saying is, like, I was so giving to a lot of people close to me, sitting on vacations, doing all kind of stuff. And then when I had a hard spot, nobody was there. And I was like, this is how y'all really feel? And I was like, man, if this is the game of life, I'm done playing it.
Yeah.
But it just brought, so I didn't. So like when you were saying, Travis, like it took me on up there. I think to avoid it, like we can't let nothing take us even up there. Like even when we give, now when I give, it's with no expectations. Like, bro, because now you have a hold on me.
Yeah.
If I put some behind it, man, it can come back and bite myself,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
But, I would say, Travis, I apologize because what I just said a minute ago was petty. It's your fault. That's petty. But
so you have no idea how much he did not want to have this conversation, bro. Oh, I had to fuck with him so much to get.
And I'll tell you why. Because I was, like you said, I was on the opposite end. It felt like it would take me more. I had probably more. People think I'm patient now. I probably had more patience as a kid because I was waiting for my turn. You know what I mean? And when I say that, it's because I learned early on that I was a bit different from people around me because I was very loving. I was very touchy-feely. I wanted to be in your face. My love language was touch and like acts of service and things like that. It was a bit of a foreign concept where I was coming from. So understanding that I was different in this way, when you're a kid like that, you actually want more. You want more attention, you want more love, and you might not be in a situation where you can get it the way that you want. So that coupled with the way schools are, where, you know, as soon as they start to see that you're some type of different, that is what you are known for. And whether it's the ADHD or the outbursts in class or whatever, being a class clown, whatever that is that gets you that attention. And if you're not getting the positive version of that attention, you do start to feel ostracized. So that was my experience, where I wanted to give so much, and I wanted to be outspoken, and I wanted to not necessarily be the center of attention, but I wanted the attention. You know what I mean? And I didn't get it that way. I was like, oh, so this is how y'all want to be. Then I will be that opposite end of the spectrum where, you know, it was more of that. It wasn't that self-loathing. It was a coat of like self-importance, and that survival is self-protection. All right, well, if you won't love me, then I'll love myself enough for everybody, which means ultimately you don't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a switch, man.
It's a switch, bro. And it took me a long time to understand that, even though I wasn't like, you may have a desire to physically hurt somebody, but you can't do that. It's not socially acceptable. But you know what is, you know what's not, going to land you in jail? Gaslighting people, being psychologically or emotionally manipulative.
All right, Hannibal Lecter.
You know what I'm saying? So if we being honest, man, because I want to be able to show again, what is the opposite end of that? Because it's not all suicidal thoughts and oh, woe is me. Sometimes you build up that structure around you to protect yourself from everybody else, and you want to be the only one left standing. So that's the part that has been hard to reconcile is why was I the one that was different than everybody else? When they want to take themselves out, I want to take everybody else out. And I never felt that way. I never felt like I was the problem, but I wasn't taking responsibility either. So it comes back to that Eddie Brock, is that you have all this power, you know you are capable, but nobody's giving you that chance. But what is the behavior that you're exhibiting that won't let them let you have that chance?
Yeah, I think that's a super important thing, man. Because like I said, it's gonna be different for different people, and you know, I could tell you felt that when you said it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and I think that's why I really wanted to have this conversation, because these are not the conversations that people are having. It's like I said in the beginning, it's like we don't have these conversations, unfortunately, until some shit happens. Now, until some guy snaps off and goes like, well, why did he do this? What was his reason? It's like, now you care. Now we care about this shit. But the guy was, a lot of these guys are presenting problems way before this kind of shit happens. But we don't, but we don't. It's almost like we don't. When was the last time you heard or saw a commercial talking about men's mental health?
Yeah.
When is Men's Mental Health Day? Let me ask you that. What day of the year is Men's Mental Health Day?
It was actually in June, but that was one thing that I've seen that everybody was like, well, why is everything in June? Why can't we just have, if it's gay pride, then that be that. Well, if it's mental health for men, they let it be that. But a lot of people, they were so upset with the fact that everything was happening at once that, again, men's mental health will most likely get pushed to the back because of pride. And I'm not blaming anybody for that, but I'm saying that's the reality of it. You know, if you put everything in the same day, nothing matters.
Yeah, which is wild, because it's like, for us to do what we need to do as men, to keep this world spinning like it needs to spin on its axis, we can't be dodging these conversations. You know, it's like we if nobody else is going to do it, we have to pick up the torch and have these conversations. You know, as hard and as difficult as it is, and how uncomfortable as it can be, we have to. The big reason why I really have started to step out and start telling more of what's going on with me is because I know there's a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 20-year-old going through the same shit that I went through. That's in the same place that I went through, who probably, unfortunately, isn't going to be as lucky as I was and isn't going to make it out of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to do some crazy shit and either take himself out or get taken out in the process or be under the jail.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see a lot, especially on the internet, I see a lot of these guys that I'm like, man, I see so much of myself in you, and it's fucking terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know you're the type, and I told my mom this one time. It's like I realized a long time ago, I'm either going to be the guy that destroys this world and watches it burn, the supervillain, or I'm going to be somebody who leaves this world in a much better state than how I got it. There's no in between for me. I'm just that's just how I'm built.
Mm-hmm.
Or the guy that builds us up, that tries to build this thing up into something amazing before I leave. I was like, that's it. That's all. There's not going to be Travis was sitting on the couch just chilling watching football.
Yeah,
I'm just not that guy.
yeah.
Two things. Well, yeah, thing and a half really. You had mentioned that people don't care until after the fact, but it's not even that we care about the shooter or the person who did these acts. We care about the people that they hurt, and that's why we remember them, is because they did something so heinous. And I remember this is the best. This was the best birthday gift I've ever gotten. I was hanging with somebody real close to me. I don't want to put their business out there like that, but they had told me, it was like, I thought you were gonna be a Columbine kid.
Damn.
And I was like, oh, happy birthday. You know what I mean? I was just like, oh, okay. But that stuck with me because I was like, either I was smart enough to make the proper changes at the right times, or I was too much of a coward. And I couldn't. I never got too much deeper into that question because it's a moot point at this point. I do so much to help people, and I've changed. I've done so much to change who I was and try to bury that. But she was right. She was right. And I'm ashamed to admit that, but I was just like, wow, if you saw it, I wasn't very good at hiding it then, was I?
For real.
So, yeah, man, we got to help the Eddie Brocks, bro.
Man, this has been an amazing conversation. So, man, thanks for chiming in, bro.
Yeah, man, thank y'all for having me, man. I gotta hop over here, man. But it's been amazing, bro. This is not just this conversation, man, but conversations like it, bro. Need to be had, man. Y'all are leading the way, brothers. Thank y'all for having me on, man.
Man, we appreciate it, man. Hey, and before you go, man, we want to as we go through this process, a big piece of Warriors Way Home is going to be doing, like, we talk about events and different things like that. We do want to focus on young men and men at risk young men as well. And man, we would be, I'm just gonna put it out here before the future even comes, we would be honored, man, if you would be a part of having some of the speaking and different things like that, coming in and talking to some of these guys, man.
At any point in time,
your message is
help these cats find their purpose, man.
Man, at any point in time, I'm down, bro. Anytime, it's just a phone call, text away, and it's done, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Sure, appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Appreciate y'all, brother.
All right, man.
Have a good one.
I do.
Oh man. Whew.
Yes,
now
sir.
That's a fucking conversation, bro. We're still alive, by the way. We're still alive, by the way. So just so you know, we're still alive.
I know. I need a drink though.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna close it out because we've been going for a minute, man. This
sir.
Going on 2 hours now? No,
going
an hour and a half. Okay, about 90 minutes. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's take a look at some of the comments real quick before we close out, man.
So shout out to our brother T. He had jumped in there real quick. Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
what was that
one?
Is that from YouTube? I was keeping my eye on Instagram.
There we go. So we got that one. So I can't see him, so you have to read them out for
me. So Jay said this is true. He also said what's up to Soul. Said it was. I believe he said this was an important conversation we were having kind of early on. So going to the next one.
Let's see here.
From State Port Sound, one of those chats that happened as I needed to hear it 100%. I just read a comment too about how some people seem to go 0 to 60 instantly, but you don't know who is already walking around at 59. That's absolutely 100%.
I was
Yes,
definitely
sir.
59 for sure for a long time.
Yes.
for
Tapping that
hey,
gas, boy.
hey, did you know me? Did you know me when I was,
Exactly.
in my 20s? Shit.
All right. Jay said, "Thank you, brothers. This was much needed meeting. Be safe out here. You too, man. Appreciate
Yeah,
you
appreciate it,
sitting
man.
with us this whole
Appreciate it,
time.
man. Yeah, this,
Absolutely.
this has been dope, man. This has been dope, man. But yeah, man. I think we're gonna wrap it up, bro. I think we tapped into a lot of this, man. I think let's do takeaways.
For sure.
So um, what would say would be your takeaway with this conversation on something that either let's take it from both ends, something that a young man in this situation, between that, I think man, Soul hit on it so hard, that age between 17 and like 23,
Yeah.
bro, man, it's like, 'cause I'm just thinking about me at that age. Damn, man, it's like, yeah, he's dead on. He's absolutely dead on with that.
Yeah.
So
And
appreciate,
that's our
shout out to Dope,
demographic
man.
too. That 18
Yeah,
to
man,
30 range, bro.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So,
We're
and
talking to you.
we are talking to you.
Right.
Yes. But what would be your advice to that young man,
Mhm.
at that age range, and what would be your advice to maybe some people around him, maybe like a
Mhm.
family member, or even just somebody who knows a young man like that and sees them as in proximity to
Right.
somebody like that.
For sure. The biggest thing that helped me in that 18 or that 17 to 23 range, and even up to 30, is that self-awareness. You have to sit with, I know a lot of people are afraid to sit with themselves and
Mhm.
have those harder conversations. They may be able to help somebody else with their shit, but they won't go into their own closet and start to do that real cleaning, that real work. Do that, because it will save you a lot of that emotional reaction that a lot of us have that end up putting us dead or in jail. You know what I
Oh, yeah.
mean? If you take that, we got some episodes on the channel now that kind of talk about that, having that self-awareness, being able to think 2-3 steps ahead, because
Mhm.
and it was because I did that I didn't end up making some dumber decisions. So
Same.
being able to think, just being able to think is you are far above a lot of people, because you will think about how you're feeling and your emotions, and how to really not wrestle with those, but sit with that and being able to accept yourself for who you
Mhm.
are now, and know that this is not going to be the you that is sitting here 20 years from now, if you allow yourself to get that far.
I think we called it
Um,
with the 10-second rule or something like that. Take just 10 seconds
yeah.
when when you find yourself in that moment, to
Hmm.
just sit for 10 seconds and really think through, like, if I do this, what's the outcome of this? What's
Right.
going to happen with this? Is there another option?
Right.
Boom.
For those around them, you are the one that is going to be able to really help that person come out of that. Because like you said, the fact that you took a couple of minutes to talk to a complete stranger, you have no idea the impact that happened after
Yep.
that. You know what I'm saying? You never know the ripple effect that happens outside of your actions, the conversations that you have, or you just smiling to somebody, or giving $1 to a homeless man, whatever that it is. Um, if you are the person who was around somebody that you feel like they're a ticking time bomb, or they're too quiet, or you don't know what they're thinking, ask them. Even if they lie to you, the fact that you took the time to try to speak to them is going to mean a lot more than it is to you. So we're like I said, we're never going to know the outcome of even the smallest things that we do. But if we don't do them at all, people could be at risk. You yourself could be at risk. Like we said, with some of these shooters, they go after their families, or people at school, or the grocery store, or the church, or wherever.
Hmm.
It's because you have to take the time. They already do this because they don't feel like they have any connection to anybody.
Definitely.
So you need to, if you be the hero and make that connection with that one person, because we have a lot of like stupid videos on Instagram and all these social media platforms where it's like the quiet kid at school, like point of view, you're talking to the quiet kid at school. He tells you not to come to school tomorrow. You think that's a lie? You think
No,
that's fake? You
no.
think, no, sir, you are saving somebody's life by doing that. And if it's just your own, you might be saving their lives too,
Hmm.
by letting them know that they are actually seen, because they act out because they feel like they're not seen.
100%.
So I would
100%.
say that's probably it.
Yeah. So, man, definitely. I love the first one you mentioned, man. It's like taking that time. I would say for the guy going for the guy who finds himself in this time frame and having those thoughts, having being in this moment. Um, Man, I would say find the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Find the lesson. The stuff you're going through. Not the excuse. Not the excuse to do the things that you want to do or anything like that. But find the lesson would be one. Um, but my bigger one would be reach out,
Mm-hmm.
find somebody else, whether it be one person or the group. Because for me, if I had found the one thing, my one saving grace during that time was probably martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And the time I could definitely tell when it got worse is when I wasn't in martial
Mm-hmm.
arts. That's when it got real bad. When I wasn't training, when I wasn't active in that, when I wasn't doing those things and had those connections. When I wasn't in that, that's when it got the darkest for me.
Mm-hmm.
When I found myself in that, it made life easier to live,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, for me, because I felt like I felt like I was doing something positive, not for me, if for
Mm-hmm.
nobody else but for me.
Yeah.
I felt like I was doing something positive, but it
Mm-hmm.
was also the camaraderie, the being around people who actually gave a shit about me, who didn't just say it, but actually showed it
Mm-hmm.
in ways. So I would say find something, find someone. I don't care if it's a damn Yu-Gi-Oh club, or whatever it may be. If you're running around in a field with other guys pretending you're Naruto, do that shit, bro.
That is still a power circle. That
It
is
is.
still
It is.
people
It's,
who get you and
matter of
your
fact, it's a
interests.
scary power circle because those Rasengans, man.
Okay.
A couple of them bad boys will destroy the
Right.
whole world. So we got to make sure
Right.
that they're all doing positive things.
Right.
Anyway, nerd mode over. Um,
It's never over. But to
but
kind of
no, find your tribe.
yeah.
Don't roll solo. You're
Right.
not alone in this. There are other people who have gone through and maybe are going through some of the same stuff you're going through. Now, don't find the people who are going to just stay in that shit, who
Mm-hmm.
are just going to drag you down and further into the depths and like come down to hell with me. Not that group.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But
Don't go to
somebody
the
who
black
actually,
pill groups.
yeah.
Yeah.
So people who are actually, who have gone through some of that same stuff and who are moving in, I mean, a positive way. Even if, like I said, they're just doing positive things.
Mm-hmm.
Chess clubs, sports teams. Martial arts is a huge one that
Yeah.
that we're proponents of, because those are the ones that take you from feeling like you're that weak, broken individual to showing you how strong and powerful you actually can be,
Right.
and not have to pick up a gun and go show people how strong you can be,
Right.
but actually to where you actually can feel it inside and
Yeah.
walk around with that, something that no one else can take from you.
One other thing that you actually find in martial arts is one of the things that I loved about it so much is that if you go in there with these feelings and you start to temper it down, what you
Mm-hmm.
will realize is that the rest of the world, hear me when I say this, the rest of the world is not as defenseless as you think it is. Because the same people who go in there to learn what you're learning, they can use it on you as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a level of, oh shit, I am now on an equal playing field with these folks, and you will find out you are not the biggest monster in the closet. There's always somebody bigger and badder than you. And if you get to train with them, lucky you. But at the same time, it's like you, and this is because this is people who go to learn martial arts to hurt people, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good
They don't last long.
they
They
don't
don't
last
last long.
long. And
Not at
they
all.
they get humbled and they understand,
And
oh,
then they leave.
I might need to check my tone with the average person because I don't know what they know.
Mm-hmm.
Martial arts uh, used to be not as well participated as it is now. There's a whole different breed of people out here where they start their kids super young, even if they're just wrestling or karate or whatever that it is. They're learning a lot more than they used to, and a lot more of it is more useful.
Yeah.
So you are not the baddest person. That goes for anybody. You are not the biggest,
Mhm.
baddest dog on the yard. And you may feel like you want to go out there and hurt somebody. Be careful who you run up on.
Yeah.
Because they may be having a bad day too.
Yeah, Travis might be at 59%.
This right.
But yeah, my second one, man, for the people who for the people around them, so people in the general area or family or people who know and can kind of see that there's something going on with individuals like this. Um, don't just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like don't just think that it's a phase and it's just gonna. And I'm not saying panic and be like throw them in a straight jacket or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but engage.
Mm-hmm.
Engage is like the one big thing that kept me from doing anything real crazy because I had some people who were in my face. Not like asking me questions that, but people people who were around me is like, hey, da da da, talking to me on a regular, engaging with me on a regular, even if it wasn't like some deep, meaningful bullshit or anything like that. Even if it was just regular check-ins, like every time they saw me, like, hey, how things going? Da 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 da. It took 5-10 minutes with me just for me to dodge their questions, because that's what I did. I
Right.
dodged their fucking questions so I could hide what was going on with me. But the fact that I knew every time I saw this person that they were going to engage with me, while I said I didn't like that shit, it really implanted in me this that people gave a shit about me. That there
You
was
needed
at
it.
least that there were at least a few people that at least gave a little bit of a shit, just a little bit of a shit, and that was really all it really took. In a lot of ways, that's
You don't take
probably a
much.
big reason why I didn't go off the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
so engage. Like I
Yeah.
said, it doesn't need to be anything profound, or you sitting them down doing a therapy session or anything like that, or like I said, you panicking and throwing them in a straitjacket because you have a feeling that they might do something, but engaging. But if you do start seeing some changes in behavior, man, definitely address that with them. Be like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
man, you good? I'm seeing some, da 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 da. You're all right. There's some, seems like there's some stuff going on. Leave that door open. Leave that door open. They might not walk through it right now. They
Mm-hmm.
might not, they might pretend like they don't need you or whatever it may be, but leave that door open, because you never know that moment right before they go off, that they snap, they go off that deep end. You never know who might walk through that door.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So with that, we will wrap this up. Please if you like this, please comment. What were some nuggets that you got from it? What in this conversation do you feel like was useful to you? We already got some great comments. We want to see more. We want to interact with you guys and be there for you. And if you are feeling like you are having these types of thoughts, please contact us so that we can help you and not ostracize you how some other people have maybe in your life, and just understand that we're not doing this for fun. It is
Yeah.
fun, but these are still hard conversations that we're having to have, and we're growing alongside you guys. So if you feel like, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, wherever you found us, however you found us, if you feel like you're having, these kind of darker thoughts, understand that you are not alone, and
Mhm.
contact us and let us help you,
Yep. And if not us, somebody, man.
somebody.
If not us, because we're two random dudes on YouTube,
Right.
we get it. If not us, somebody.
Mhm.
Talk to somebody
Right.
about what's going on. Don't sit in this shit and suffer in silence, man. Don't just sit in the dark and clean your gun. Don't be that guy. It's like at least attempt.
Right.
It's like that's all it is. It's like attempt to reach out for that help, because
Mm-hmm.
it is out there. And honestly, man, it's and as we said before, man, you don't want to make permanent decisions off of temporary feelings, because honestly, man, a week from now, you're probably not gonna say this. You're probably not gonna feel the same way that you feel exactly in this moment right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, give it a day and reach out.
For sure.
Don't just close yourself off. Try and find that group. Try and find that tribe of like-minded individuals, people who've gone through some of the same stuff that you've gone through, because it's out there, man. Especially now with the internet, bro. Especially now with the internet, because I wish I had as much access to the internet as I do now.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was going through my shit, I wish. It's definitely a tool. Use it.
Right. Absolutely. If you don't have a tribe, let us be your tribe. However long it takes for you to come out of the shadows and say, hey, something that you said help me. And, we're not doing it for self-gratification. We're doing this for y'all. You know what I'm saying? We're the Warriors way home for a reason. You are still a warrior. Come home.
Finding your way home.
Finding your way home. So
Absolutely.
you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon podcasts, all the good stuff, everywhere you can find us. We're primarily on YouTube, but we're definitely branching out. And just remember that it's always better to be a warrior in the garden
than a gardener in a war.
Catch you guys next time.
Take it easy, guys.